Oh, it's a difficult question.
How would I answer that?
Where do you come up with those fucking questions, man?
A cinematographer is a storyteller.
But you're using pictures.
A cinematographer is a truly amazing individual.
An artist.
Capturing people on camera.
It's a crafter of light.
The eyes of the director.
We visualize the written word.
Someone who has a photographic eye and an ability to tell stories visually.
An interpreter who uses light and composition to affect an audience's perception of what's going on in that story.
We speak through light and shadows.
It's to bring to fruition the vision of the director.
Then I work out how to make his dream or her dream come alive and get it on the screen.
And it's a big job.
Your responsibility covers a vast gamut of technological knowledge.
How it's lit, how it's composed.
The lensing of it, the movement of the camera.
And choreograph with the actors and the dialogue and the scene.
Turning the ambiguous ideas that are on a page into a physical reality.
Cinematography is about defining light and space.
He has to be, every day, the psychiatrist du jour, which means he has to understand people.
He's got to be more than an artist, he's got to be a great leader.
An artist and a craftsman, and a psychologist, and a lover.
It's really exciting, and there's nothing I'd rather be doing.
Doing what I do certainly beats having a real job.
You are moving the emotions, you're telling a story, you're creating a mood, you're building character, you are touching a human being without the person realizing that you're touching him.
Wow. Light is a particle and a wave at the same time. Very deep subject.
Light, the absence of dark. I think Isaac Newton discovered, he called them corpuscles, we call them photons.
I just default to the technical aspects, its quality, its color, its...
186,000 miles per second.
It's the light that enters the lens and strikes the chip or the emulsion.
Light is energy.
It's an energy that reveals
what we use to paint a picture.
It's also your biggest enemy as well as your biggest friend, because it works against you as well as for you.
Light to me is like paint to an artist.
Light is a form of expression, a form of storytelling. Light is pretty much life.
You ask me about what light is. I'm saying that light is my path to creating images.
Light, from my point of view, purely mechanical, it's what I can mold. Shapes of faces, rooms, and atmosphere.
Sets a mood, puts me in a mood. When the sun is shining, it's one mood. When it's overcast, it's another mood.
I won't go so far as to say feeling, although light has a feeling and I have a feeling for it.
And mood is part of the subtext of telling stories. And as a cinematographer, I'm using light to create that subtext.
It is our invisible force.
My name is Bruce Logan, and I am a motion picture hyphenate. I am a director of photography, I'm a colorist, I'm a commercial director, and I dabble in writing. I agreed to do this test because we're reaching a very interesting time in camera technology. There's a new camera that comes out, every 2 weeks. So the shelf life of a test is very, very short. I'm feeling that this is probably going to be one of the last camera tests because most cameras these days are certainly good enough to make a motion picture with. I wanted to create a challenge for these cameras that was almost beyond what they were going to be able to handle. So what I created is a scene that had a 14-stop range from the brightest whites to the darkest blacks. In fact, some of the blacks were unreadable. They didn't show up on the exposure meter at all. It was like walking into a house that you might go into on location, and you might walk into that house and there'd be a couple of practical lights on in the house, and there'd be the sun blaring out through the window, and there'd be nothing else going on in the room. So everybody that was invited to participate in the test was very, very experienced with the particular camera that we asked them to come in to shoot. And they knew going into my almost impossible lighting situation that they were going to have to do certain things to the camera in terms of lighting to get a really great image on that camera. Each DP was given 90 minutes to relight the base scene that I'd given them. They were allowed to increase overall fill light. They were not allowed to move the key sources that I was using in the room. So for the foreground people, there was a warm light that was coming from camera right, and there was a cool that was coming from camera left. So they weren't able to change the color temperature of those lights or the position of those lights, but they could change the intensity or the amount of diffusion, and they were able to fill the rest of the room up. They were, within these very tight parameters, they were allowed to enhance the lighting for their camera.
There's so many people out there doing incredible work. It's so hard to narrow it down.
Wow. I like Christopher Doyle.
Caleb Deschanel.
Laszlo Kovacs.
I like Darren Okada, I like Richard Crudo's work.
Victoria Stavarl does incredible things with color.
Jordan Cronenworth's work.
Haskell Wexler. Naturally, I like the work of my friends. You mentioned Stephen Goldblatt.
Stephen Goldblatt does beautiful work.
I love Philippe Rousselot's work.
Roger Deakins, a good friend and a good shooter.
I love everything Roger Deakins shoots, certainly Chivo. What a genius.
David Egby, who shot the original Mad Max.
My favorite deceased cinematographer is Conrad Hall.
Conrad Hall.
Was Conrad Hall?
Conrad is my favorite.
Conrad really changed the way movies looked.
The reason that Conrad Hall's films are so true and so distinctive and so brilliant is because Conrad Hall, the person, looked at life unflinchingly.
I love the work of people like Gordon Willis.
I love Wally Pfister.
I like Janusz Kaminski.
Very much Philippe Rousselot was an inspiration.
I look around, I sit next to Vilmo Zsigmond, and I'm just, I'm saying, why am I sitting next to this guy? I mean, every time you walk into the ASC, you think about, Greg Tolan or the people that have been there before you, and you're talking about greatness.
You don't have any other lenses? You don't have any narrow beam pars or anything, rock and roll pars, do you?
My name is Rodney Charters, and I'm a cinematographer, and I like movies. Bruce Logan called me and asked me if I would operate the Alexa on this test because of extensive amount of experience on Charlie's Angels and Dallas and Shameless. Walking on your set, I was surprised that it was so believably authentic and quite well rendered. There was a production designer involved, and there was a proper backing, and it was being lit beautifully. And then my challenge was to say, okay, this is lit. I don't really need to do anything to this, but how would I change this to affect it more in the way I like to light?
The Alexa comes up so natural as a beautiful image already that we were able to just add contrast and kind of bring in a little more saturation from the flatness of it, and then just balance it from there.
I basically felt that I could bring everything down a lot more inside the room and make the dominant part of the scene be the exterior and make that quite hot.
You can't beat the latitude in an Alexa camera as far as data acquisition is concerned. That has so little artifacting and so little noise being projected up there that it's really just wherever you want to make it.
And if sunlight's coming in and it's looking beautiful, I'm much more able now with a digital camera to say, you know what, this looks beautiful, I can improve on this. Roll, please roll, right, let's shoot right now.
So each cinematographer, for their creative part of the test, were given 90 minutes in the color correction bay, and they were allowed to use primary and secondary corrections to make their creative takes look any way that they wanted to. Everything that we did was color corrected on the baseline.
With that, we were able to do our scaling from the higher resolutions as well as our up-resing from the lower resolutions, and just do one render, and then bring all of that into a DCP package.
I didn't want to go down a couple of digital generations on anything. I wanted the raw image to come into the baselight. I wanted everything color corrected, and I wanted it output out of the baselight and scaled all in one step.
The collaborative effort of filmmaking is what we enjoy as an art form.
It's a journey that we all go on collectively, and we all become richer for the experience.
People who are equipped to shoot films completely themselves from beginning to end could also work with other people.
The nature of film is collaboration.
There is a Hollywood way of making movies, and it's broken down into different crafts, and these crafts come together to create really incredible results.
There's every degree of talent, and I just love that. I just think that's what makes films what they are.
What I appreciate about filmmaking is working with better editors than I am, better DPs than I am, better producers. And I think that's, to try and do everything by yourself, I think you're missing the point and the beauty of filmmaking.
By giving up some creativity, giving up some of the control, some of the force, you get it back double, because now you've enlisted the other person as an ally.
Not just for the pleasure of interacting, but because you can make a better film.
So you're a cinematographer, you have a gaffer, you don't micromanage them. You don't tell them what to do. You tell them the direction you want to go in, you tell them the mood you're trying to create, and you let them go on the truck and get the tools to do it.
You're not always collaborating, you're more trying to convince people to do what you want them to do. And for that you have to be very diplomatic and skillful and pleasant and not tyrannic. Of course there are those who are very tyrannistic.
Working with those other people sometimes can be a pain in the ass because you may not agree with the way things are going. But as your job as a cinematographer is to do your best in those circumstances.
It's better to be nice, or better to get what you want from people by being nice, and they will follow you and they will jump into the hot water for you.
Don't rely on yourself to do all of that. Not that it isn't intoxicating to be that person, but ultimately film is a team effort, and every time you try and do it yourself, you're giving up on that other set of eyes, the other set of thoughts, the other mindset that will shift you and gradually evolve what is basically a very organic process.
And it's all yours, whatever you want to do with it, isn't it?
When I walked onto the set, I immediately saw that there was a wide dynamic range to cover there, so just to cover my bases, I decided to enable HDRX. My name is Ryan Walters. I'm a cinematographer, and I operated the Red Epic. One of the things that's nice about the Epic is that it gives you options, and so if you're in a very extreme lighting situation, you can literally dial in your highlight protection. The most difficult part for the Red was going to be some of the low lit areas of the scene and retaining some of the detail in the blacks. So I chose to bring up the fill level in the areas where I wanted to retain detail.
Cut! Camera cut!
Nice job. Thank you. When I walked into the baselight room, the first thing I did was to make sure that we had the right gamma and color space. We used red log film and red color 2, and that gave us a nice base to start with. And from there, the colorist was able to help me push the highlights into the range that I wanted to and keep the blacks nice and crisp. As long as you have a thick, flat negative, you have tons of options in post. That's one of the things I really like about working with RAW, is that you are really able to shape the image a lot more in post, and you've got a lot more flexibility.
Wow, that's a great question.
I don't know whether I answered your question.
Thinking about great cinematographers being born or made, I have no way of knowing if they're born that way.
It's not black and white.
If you're talking about someone like an Owen Royceman or a Caleb Deschanel or a Conrad Hall, there's something obviously very special that they had coming into it.
A great cinematographer is born.
You've got to have something inside to become talented.
Bill Dill and I used to joke we could teach a person to be a cinematographer in 3 weeks as far as the technical aspects go.
For me, I had to have an innate desire or drive for it.
The job is not just how do you get an image down on film or tape.
It's like, you know, it's kind of a cliche, but I think you're born with it.
You've got to have it in your bones in a way that, you know, we can't define.
That you respond at the gut level to what you're seeing in terms of how light falls and what moves you and how you cut light and add light and take light away.
It's something that someone just has to have. At the same time, you have to work the 10,000 hours that it's going to take to become good.
Talent is 90% hard work and 10% luck.
I think talent can be learned. I think you can be born with talent. I think talent can be nurtured, and if you work hard, you could develop your talent.
I don't think I was born a cinematographer. I think I was born not quite knowing what I wanted to do. But when I fell in love with cinematography, I mean, it was a real passion.
Alright, everyone ready?
Wait till that boom comes over.
Yep. Oh, yeah, get that in here. Get that in here.
All right, so why don't we
Okay,
talk about
you want to start with it?
Okay. All right, okay, yep. I think Panasonic chose Colt and I because we had worked with the camera before, the GH2 before, and we understood how to light for that, the different challenges that you have when working with a DSLR camera.
With the GH2, we placed the Quantum B9 hack inside it. And with doing that hack, we had to change our color settings to -2, -2, and -2.
We knew we couldn't compete with the dynamic range of some of the other cameras, and we had a big problem in the shadows. So we knew that we had to bring the lights up and kind of balance everything.
So we're like, shit, we need to boost all the power and lights in there. We made sure that they had that 12 by 12 above, and we're bouncing the 5K into that to make sure it had overall lighting, and then from there we could start lighting around the girl in the back of the couch, having a light behind her. We had to put more lights in those corners. We had to enhance the practical in the back left corner. In the center we had to have a light coming down a little bit more to open that up, but it was really kind of hard to light it in a way that it was not affected inside the scene. So we had some issues there, but with getting more light into that set, it allowed the camera to look as good as a higher end camera.
Take 2 is hero.
Thank you very much, Alan.
Thank you. Are we doing hacked?
Take 3, sorry.
Well, I gotta confirm that. Oh, Scott.
Hacked and unhacked, right?
In our color session, we probably used, I think, around 5 windows. We were concerned about noise, so we didn't want to just bring up everything, so it was a little bit more important to selectively use the windows to fix some of the issues. We fixed the couch, the girl in the black dress, the actual window to the exterior, and some of the lights in the background.
In this segment, you'll see all 9 cameras shown blindly with an arbitrary letter assigned to each shot. I want you to write down the camera letters you like best and make a note of them. Don't try and figure out which is which. Just write down the ones you like best, and we will reveal the cameras and discuss them in part 2.
When I was a young assistant cameraman, I used to work with Gordon Willis quite often, and every once in a while I was able to slip in a question, and I would ask him one of these questions where I expected an answer that would sort of set me free and open up the whole world of knowledge of cinematography to me. And very often his answer to my question would be, I really can't answer that. It just felt right.
I think sadly, there are a number of young people who are aspiring to work in this industry who are looking for a magic pill or a magic button that somehow it'll all just be okay.
A lot of people just want to be noticed straight away and get out there. They ask, how can I get noticed? How can I become a successful filmmaker?
That frustrates young people, and I understand it, but I urge them to stick to it and keep at it, and eventually that will reveal itself.
If you're an indie filmmaker on the internet, all I can say is follow your heart.
See as much as you can see.
Be aware, be very, very alert about what's around you.
Be a person. Be a person. And that personhood will let you be a good filmmaker because you'll learn the techniques and you'll feel good about yourself. My advice to you is work on it. It's different from me, and I can't tell you how to do it. I can encourage you to do it.
Get out there and have experiences, you know, live, have emotions.
You go into a bar, you go into a restaurant, you go and the sun is setting. You're always aware of what the lighting is. You say, "Ooh, that's pretty, that's beautiful."
Don't walk with the Walkman on your head. Don't text all the time. Just look around you because the life is teaching you so much about storytelling.
That then hopefully, if you're really serious and sincere, you can pour into the work.
And when you don't do that, you're just missing on it.
That's how you really learn. It's not like this light does this light does that.
And I think just do as much as you can all the elements of the art.
Just go out and do it.
Go make 2 and 3 minute shorts. Watch film. Good film. Many films, great learning films, have occurred before Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Learn about aesthetics, learn about art history, learn about world around you because you have to recreate that world on the screen.
I think if you want to be a cinematographer, I would read everything you can read.
Real books, difficult books, books that bore you at first, books that take 200 pages to get into, but they will change your life.
For me, the biggest education is just watching as much as possible.
Watching shadows is very important.
To watch and turn the sound off and watch the cuts. See when cuts work and when they don't work.
I'm going to give you one bit of advice from Haskell Wexler. I'm talking to film students. My bit of advice is don't take any advice from Haskell Wexler. My life, different times, different person. Do take advice from your heart and your mind, your conscience, and your connection to other people and to the globe itself.
And I feel very strongly about this for kids that are just trying to get into the industry. If you think for one moment that Hollywood gives a damn about what camera you used on a job, they don't even know. And I bet you couldn't find 3 people who would even ask. So nobody should be worried about what camera they're using. The tool is there if you know how to use it, and you've got the talent, and you've got the drive. You can shoot a damn good movie.